Hi guys, before I start this video off, I would like to say that I do not mean any disrespect to any of the victims in this case. I simply got all of this information from the internet and just compiled it into one video. Well, in this case it's 3 videos, but I got all the information from the internet, the interrogation clips, the police reports, and I just put it all together. And I do not mean any disrespect to the victims or the victims' families. Thank you. Hi guys, it's Miranda Henley, and I am back wanting to talk about hometown horrors again. So if you're from Marion, you probably remember that dead body that was found on the side of the road on Victory Road. It was just described as an unidentified person, and this was back in 2007. So let's fast forward to 2015, and I'm asking people, like, do you guys remember that? Whatever happened with that? And I would get the response of, yeah, I vaguely remember that. You vaguely remember a dead body being found on the side of the road in Marion County? Well, in 2016, it was identified, and Marion had their very own serial killer. His name is Shawn Grate, but he wasn't great at all. He was a menace to society. He was awful. He graduated River Valley in 1994, and he was described as kind of awkward. He failed kindergarten and first grade. I didn't even know that was possible. I thought it was kind of like chicken pox. Like, once you fail, you can't fail again. I don't know. I guess I never really heard of somebody failing twice. But I mean, I failed first grade. So if you failed a grade, no judgment at all. Been there, done that. How do you fail first grade? I don't know. Like, did I fail nap time? I don't know. I don't remember. I was like 6. So he had a staring problem. But again, if you're from Marion, I think it's something in the water. Everybody has a staring problem. Like, you're at a stoplight and you just see. Take a picture, it lasts longer. He saw a psychologist, Dr. Fabian, and Dr. Fabian said that Shawn had a very chaotic life and he had fantasies of killing his mother. His mother abandoned him and moved to Kentucky when Shawn was just 11 years old, and Shawn stayed back to live with his dad for obvious reasons. Shawn loved playing baseball, and one time he broke his arm. It required surgery. During the surgery, they found a tumor, and it resulted in him not being able to play baseball ever again, which was really unfortunate. It was something he really enjoyed. This caused him to go into a very deep depression, and he was not leaving the couch for days at a time. Eventually, he graduated high school in 1994, and after graduation, he just started committing a lot of crimes. He had grabbed his girlfriend by the throat in 1994. In 1995, he was breaking into houses and he was stealing money and jewelry and had to go to prison for 2 years. In 1999, he gets arrested again for breaking into his pregnant girlfriend's house. His girlfriend was 17 at the time, and he was 23. He breaks into her house, and he holds her and her sister hostage at knife point. Eventually, they get out, and they do a police report. For holding the 2 women hostage, Shawn had to do 4 more years in prison. So this fast forwards to 2003. So I do believe that Shawn has 3 baby moms. There was the one that was 17 that he held at knife point. Then there was one that filed a report about a sexual abuse. And so I found a story that Shawn's long-term girlfriend Christina talked about, and it reported that Shawn had grabbed a steering wheel, yanked the steering wheel while this woman was pregnant, causing them to crash. So as a recap, so far he's been breaking into houses, He's been abusing women. He got a 17-year-old pregnant when he was 23, which I don't think is illegal in Ohio, but it's still creepy. And he's gone to prison twice. And he's like 25 right now, so he's just a mess, and he needs to get his life together. In April 2005, he starts dating a woman by the name of Christina, and she was on a show called Evil Lives Here. I watched it on Amazon Prime. I believe that it's on other streaming services, but it's excellent. She is just the sweetest little lady, and I feel awful that she had to run in and fall in love with somebody like Shawn Grate. So in the beginning of Shawn and Christina's relationship, Shawn is fixing up his dad's house. And I think it's the house that was by Garfield Park. I couldn't find like an exact address, but that's the one if I'm correct, it was by Garfield Park. So Christina's going to go visit him, see how everything's going. She helps out quite a bit with fixing up the house. And Shawn's painting the dining room. She didn't think much of it. She comes back a couple days later, and he's painting the dining room again. And there's no exact reason why. Shawn just said, I didn't like the color, which I guess is accurate, but to like paint an entire room and then be like, no, I'm going to redo it, when you have a whole other house to remodel, is pretty intense. Christina starts questioning it, and Shawn gets really irritated and says, well, if you want to help, scrub the kitchen. And she describes these weird shaped spots just splattered around, and so she just starts scrubbing. Shawn says, get every bit of those spots up. And there was one in particular spot that she just couldn't get out, and she's just working on it. She's working on it. And Shawn comes over, and he says, you better get that up. Christina said, what is this? Is this rust or something? And he says, don't worry about it. Just clean it up. And so Christina works on it and cleans it up. And then she goes to make food, and there's no knives in the house. It's weird, right? Like, normal people have more than one knife in the house. So, like, if you can't find that one, you just move to the other one. But they all were gone. And she asked Shawn about it. And Shawn gets mad, and he puts his hands on her. He immediately apologizes, says, I didn't mean to. It's not going to happen again. It was an accident. And if you've been in a domestic violence situation, you know that love blinds you. And you think, oh, that was an accident. Like, you silly goose. It sounds silly, but a lot of women have been there. After the kitchen is all cleaned up and they repainted the dining room again, Shawn throws a bonfire with his friends. And the next day, Christina goes into the house Shawn was fixing up. Shawn wasn't there, but he calls her and he says, go into the dining room. She goes in there, and there's a box with a really beautiful ring in there. And Shawn says something that I think is really weird. Everybody has their own views, but he says, we will probably never get married, but we can be engaged forever. And Christina accepts it. And then she's like, well, where did you get this ring? Shawn says, it was my mother's ring. It's in the family. Well, that's a weird thing to say when he doesn't have a good relationship with his mother. Christina's hardly ever met his mother. And then Shawn's mom comes to talk to Christina. And she gives Christina a warning and says Shawn has these moods that just go up and down, up and down. And she gave Christina a warning. So Christina keeps asking Shawn about the ring, saying, I don't believe this is from your mother. Especially since it doesn't seem like his mother is too close with him either. I mean, she just went and warned his fiance about him. Shawn says, I took the ring back in 1995 when I was burglarizing houses. And of course Christina's like, oh my gosh, like, what? No, like, get this thing off of me. That, you know, the appropriate response, like, you're going to ask me to marry you with a ring that you stole 10 years ago. What on earth? Christina and her kids move in with Shawn, and really soon after that, Shawn says, well, the kids have to go. And of course Christina's like, excuse me, they're my children, like, I can't just, like, take them back to the baby factory. What do you mean? But Shawn says they're just trouble. They're getting between us. They need to go. And Christina is starting to kind of understand what Shawn's mother was talking about with the fluctuating moods and the domestic violence. So she thought maybe it would be a good idea for the kids to leave until she kind of, you know, gets her shit together, which I'm not going to say is the bad decision in this case, because things get a lot worse. Shawn starts telling Christina that she can't go to work. He would turn off her alarm clock so she couldn't wake up for work. When she was getting ready for work, he would start grabbing onto her and, like, hugging her and telling her not to leave. So eventually Christina just becomes Shawn's prisoner, and Shawn didn't work either. Shawn would spend his days covering the windows and peeking out of the windows, saying, like, do you see that? Who's here? A lot of the things Christina was explaining on Evil Lives Here about that makes me think maybe he was on, like, meth or something. He was seeing people and he was just very scattered brained. Eventually Christina started asking her mother for help to get away from Shawn. And her mother would say, it's just your guys' business. It's your relationship. You guys need to figure it out. You're an adult. Leave. And when she said that, my heart broke. My heart broke for her, because it's not that easy. Like I said, if you've been in a domestic violence situation, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. I roll up for my sisters. My sisters call me and say that their dude even raised a voice at them. I'm at their doorstep, like, what up, brother? So to hear that Christina's mom did not help her own daughter get out of a situation where she is not seeing her kids every day. She can't go to work. She lost her job. She's being held captive by this guy who hits her. And then not only would he hit her, he would take pictures of her. He would take pictures of her crying with a black eye. And one day, it gets so bad that he breaks Christina's hand and he takes her to the hospital. In the hospital, the nurses ask who did this, what happened, and Christina makes something up because Shawn is sitting right here watching, and she knows that her life is at stake if she says anything. They tell her that she needs an x-ray on her hand, and of course, if you've had an x-ray, you know that, like, they don't even hang out in there. They, like, get behind like a bulletproof shield or something. So Shawn stays back in the hospital room. Christina goes back to get the x-ray, and she says it was Shawn that did this. I am in a very bad situation. I need help. So the nurses call the police, and so I work at a hospital, so I know exactly what she was talking about. They go on the like intercom thing, and they say like security to the ER. And when they did that, Shawn got out of there. Shawn's gone. And Christina goes to her mother's house, and she's staying there for a couple of days, but she needs to go back home to get a toothbrush, deodorant, and just stuff like that. Well, the police haven't found Shawn yet. She goes into the house to do, like, a little scope with her guard up, you know, like, trying to see if there's any indication that Shawn is there, but there wasn't. So she's packing her bag, and she goes to the door. She doesn't make it to the door because Shawn is right there. He said when the police came to look for him in the house. He was hiding in the attic under the floorboards. And if the police would have just stepped like 6 feet over, they would have stepped right on him. And of course, Shawn is mad. Him and Christina get into it. He's physically assaulting her. The neighbors hear the screaming and they call the police. The police show up at the door, and Shawn has a hammer and he's standing right behind the door. Christina opens up the door and kind of like peeks her head out, and she's talking to the police, and Shawn has the hammer right there, right by the back of her head. And Christina says, "No, Shawn's not here. I'm about to leave anyways. I have my bag." The police leave, and it's just Christina and Shawn. They get into another argument, and they're screaming and they're yelling, and Christina says, "Look, Shawn, you know, this is a small town. Anybody can find anybody. I will get you out of here if you go around back and you meet me in the woods. I will pack up our stuff and I will take you away so you can run." And Shawn is, you know, like, yeah, okay, like, no, I'm just gonna murder you. But Christina talks him down. And when Shawn goes to the back of the house, he goes to the back of the house to go into the woods, Christina calls 911 back and says Shawn is in these woods. He was at the house, explained how he had the hammer, telling her, "If you say anything that would cause the police to walk into this house, I'm beating your head in." And Shawn then gets arrested. While in jail, Shawn is telling the other inmates that he is going to kill Christina as soon as he gets out. Just very openly, like eating some French toast. I don't know what they serve in jail or prison, but, you know, eating the meal. And he's like, "Yeah, as soon as I get out here, I'm gonna kill her." So when his cellmate gets out of jail, he tells Christina, "You need to leave. You need to get out of this town as fast as you can because he is coming for you." And Christina's terrified. When Shawn gets sentenced, he gets sentenced to 120 days. For 6 years of abuse that Christina endured, Shawn got 120 days. That's it. If you guys liked this video, please subscribe because there's going to be 2 more Shawn Grate videos. And I have plenty of more things I want to talk about. I have so many stories written up. I just need to record them. If you love true crime like me, please contact me. I want to get you on these videos with me so we can discuss anything. True crime, oddity, hobbies, aliens, ghosts, and ghouls. Please subscribe. Please get a hold of me. Thank you, and stay tuned for video number 2.